Mike Reynolds was tired. 6 months of fixing spaceships had left him ready to go home. He wiped grease from his hands with an old rag and stuffed it in his pocket. The spaceport around him buzzed with activity as travelers from all over the galaxy rushed to their gates. Final boarding call for Earth. Shuttle 347, said a voice over the speakers. Mike checked his ticket one more time. First class. His company had given him the upgrade as a thank you for working overtime on the Jupiter station. After months of sleeping in tiny rooms and eating bad food, he was looking forward to a comfortable ride home. The line for first class was short. Mike stood behind a well-dressed businessman and a young woman in a fancy suit. He felt out of place in his worn mechanic's jumpsuit. But the ticket in his hand said he belonged. That's when he noticed the dragon. The massive creature stood in the economy line. His copper scales dulled with age. He towered over the humans around him, at least 12 feet tall, even with his stooped posture. What caught Mike's eye was the missing right wing. In its place was a metal replacement that looked old and broken. The dragon shifted his weight. Clearly in pain, Mike looked closer and saw the silver medallion hanging from the dragon's neck. The Galactic Veterans Corps. The symbol on it was from the Battle of Proxima Centauri, the war that had nearly wiped out humanity 30 years ago, now boarding first-class passengers, announced the gate agent. Mike watched as the dragon winced, trying to find a comfortable way to stand. The economy seats were small, even for humans. For a dragon that size, it would be torture. Before he could think twice, Mike walked over to the dragon. "Excuse me, sir," he said. Looking up at the battle-worn creature, the dragon looked down, amber eyes studying Mike with surprise. "I'm Mike Reynolds," he continued. "I noticed your medallion. Proxima Centauri." "Yes," rumbled the dragon. His voice was deep like thunder. "Commander Thorne of the 7th Aerial Division." Mike's heart skipped a beat. The 7th Division was famous. My grandfather fought at Proxima. He always said if it weren't for the dragons of the 7th, none of us would be here today. Commander Thorne nodded slowly. "We did what was necessary." Mike held out his boarding pass. "I'd be honored if you'd take my first-class seat, Commander. Those economy seats can't be good for someone your size." The dragon's eyes widened. "That is... ... unexpected, but unnecessary, human." "Tease," Mike insisted. "It would mean a lot to me." Several people nearby had stopped to watch the exchange. A woman in a business suit observed them with particular interest from across the terminal. After a moment, Commander Thorne reached out one massive clawed hand and carefully took the ticket. "Your kindness is noted, Mike Reynolds," he said formally. "The 7th Division remembers its friends." Mike smiled. "My grandfather would be proud." "Have a good flight, Commander." The gate agent looked stunned as the massive dragon approached with a first-class ticket. After checking it twice, she directed him to the priority boarding lane. Mike got in line for economy, ignoring the stares from other passengers. He didn't mind the downgrade. 6 months in space had taught him to sleep anywhere. "That was quite something," said a voice behind him. Mike turned to see a tall woman with silver-streaked black hair pulled into a tight bun. Her suit looked expensive, and she carried herself with authority. "Just seemed like the right thing to do," Mike replied with a shrug. "Victoria Blackwood," she said, offering her hand. "Interstellar Dynamics." Mike's eyebrows shot up. Interstellar Dynamics was the biggest shipbuilding company in human space. They built everything from personal shuttles to military vessels. "Mike Reynolds," he said, shaking her hand. "Just a mechanic." "I wouldn't say just, Mr. Reynolds. Not many people would give up a first-class seat to a dragon, veteran or not. Most humans still keep their distance from the Draconis even after all they did for us in the war." Mike shrugged. "My grandfather taught me better. Economy passengers may now board," announced the gate agent. "That's me," Mike said, picking up his worn duffel bag. "Perhaps we'll talk more on the flight," Victoria said with a smile that seemed to hold secrets. "I find myself quite interested in mechanics who understand the value of respect." The economy cabin was packed tight. Mike squeezed into his middle seat between a nervous businessman named Doug and an elderly woman who introduced herself as Betty. The seats were as uncomfortable as he expected. But Mike didn't regret his decision. An hour into the flight, a flight attendant approached his row. "Mr. Reynolds," she asked. "I'm Jessica. Would you please come with me?" Mike followed her, wondering if there was some problem with his ticket exchange. Instead, she led him to the first-class cabin where Commander Thorne sat, comfortably in a specially adjusted seat. "Commander requested your presence, Jessica," explained before returning to her duties. The dragon gestured to an empty seat across from him. "Join me, Mike Reynolds." Mike sat down, feeling out of place among the luxury of first class. "I've been thinking about your kindness," Thorne said. "In my 4 centuries, I've rarely encountered such respect from a human." 4 centuries? Mike couldn't hide his surprise. "I knew dragons lived long lives, but by your standards, I am ancient," Thorne said with a rumbling laugh. "I was young during the Battle of Proxima Centauri, barely 100 years old." For the next hour, Mike listened as the dragon told stories of the war. Thorne spoke of human bravery against impossible odds, fighting the alien harvesters who had come to destroy Earth. "Your grandfather, what was his name?" Thorne asked. "He was on the USS Defiant." The dragon's eyes widened. "The Defiant? The ship that held the line at Portal Station?" Mike nodded. "That's the one." "Then I owe your family more than you know," Thorne said solemnly. "The Defiant's sacrifice gave us time to arrive. Without them, we would have been too late." Their conversation was interrupted by Victoria Blackwood, who approached with 2 glasses of amber liquid. "Hey, Commander Thorne." "Mr. Reynolds," she said with a slight nod. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all," Thorne rumbled. "Join us." Victoria sat down and handed them each a glass. "A rare earth whiskey. I thought we might toast to new friendships." Mike took the glass, wondering what this powerful woman wanted with him. "Mr. Reynolds," Victoria said, "how would you like a job that uses both your mechanical skills and your unique understanding of interspecies relations?" "What kind of job?" Mike asked cautiously. Victoria smiled. "One that will change the course of human and Draconis history. One that began the moment you gave up your seat." Mike looked from Victoria to Commander Thorne, who was watching him with interest. "Listening," Mike said. Victoria swirled the amber liquid in her glass before taking a small sip. Her eyes never left Mike's face. "Interstellar Dynamics isn't just a shipbuilding company, Mr. Reynolds," she said. "We're working on something that will change everything." Mike glanced at Commander Thorne, who watched with interest. The dragon's massive form made the first-class seat look small, even though it was designed for comfort. "What kind of something?" Mike asked. Victoria pulled out a small device and pressed a button. A blue light scanned the area around them. "Privacy field," she explained. "What I'm about to tell you is classified." The noise of the cabin seemed to fade away. Mike could still see the other passengers, but their voices were muted. "We're building a ship," Victoria said. "The first of its kind. It will travel farther than any human or Draconis vessel has ever gone." "How far?" Mike asked. "Andromeda," she replied simply. Mike nearly choked on his drink. "The Andromeda Galaxy? That's impossible." "It's over 2 million light-years away." "Was impossible," Victoria corrected. "Until 6 months ago, when our team made a breakthrough." Commander Thorne leaned forward, his amber eyes intense. "The Harvester Drive Core." Victoria nodded. "Exactly." Mike looked between them, confused. "What's a Harvester Drive Core?" "During the Battle of Proxima Centauri," Thorne explained, "a human team boarded the main Harvester's ship. They captured technology that was far beyond anything the Alliance had seen." "My grandfather was on that mission," Mike said slowly. "He never talked about it." "Couldn't," Victoria said. "It was classified at the highest level. The Harvester technology was divided among the Alliance species for study. For 30 years, we've been trying to understand it." She leaned closer. 3 months ago, we finally cracked the drive core secrets. We can now build an engine capable of reaching Andromeda in just 5 years." Mike whistled softly. That's incredible. But what does this have to do with me?" "I'm just a mechanic," Victoria smiled. A mechanic who has spent the last 6 months working on the most advanced ships in the fleet. A mechanic who understands both human and alien technology. A mechanic who showed exceptional character by giving up his seat to a Draconis veteran. She turned to Thorn. And Commander, your experience with both the war and with human-Draconis relations makes you uniquely qualified to help lead this mission. The dragon's scales rippled slightly, a sign of surprise. You want me for this mission? I am retired, Ms. Blackwood. As the Draconis High Command has already approved your reinstatement, if you accept, Victoria said, they believe your experience is invaluable. Mike's head was spinning. This morning, he had been a tired mechanic heading home. Now he was being recruited for the most important space mission in history. Why me? He asked. There must be thousands of better qualified engineers. Technical skills can be taught, Victoria said. Character cannot. We need people who can work with different species, who show respect and understanding. The journey to Andromeda will take 5 years with a mixed crew. We need people who can build bridges, not just engines. The flight attendant approached their privacy bubble. Victoria pressed a button, and suddenly, the cabin noise returned. We'll be landing in 30 minutes, the attendant said. Please return to your seats for descent. Victoria stood. Think about it, gentlemen. A car will be waiting for you both at the terminal. I hope you'll join me for dinner to discuss the details. After she left, Mike looked at Commander Thorn. Did that really just happen? The dragon rumbled with laughter. It seems your act of kindness has led us both to an unexpected destination. Do you believe her? About the ship to Andromeda? Thorn's expression grew serious. The Harvesters had technology beyond our understanding. If anyone could build such a ship, it would be interstellar dynamics. Mike sat back, trying to process everything. My grandfather never told me he was part of a boarding party. Many warriors keep their greatest battles private, Thorn said. But I remember the humans who boarded the Harvester ship. They saved countless lives that day, including mine. The dragon touched his cybernetic wing. I lost this defending their shuttle. It was a fair trade. Is that why you're in pain? Mike asked. Your replacement wing doesn't work right. Thorn looked surprised. You noticed, I'm a mechanic. I notice when things don't work properly. Mike studied the metal wing. That's an old model. The joint is wearing out where it connects to your shoulder. Human technology is not always built for Draconis anatomy, Thorn said with a shrug. It has served me for 30 years. I could probably fix it, Mike offered. Or at least make it more comfortable. Thorn stared at him for a long moment. You continue to surprise me, Mike Reynolds. When the ship landed, Mike returned to economy to get his bag. As he walked through the terminal with Thorn, people stopped to stare at the unusual para, human mechanic and a massive dragon veteran. Walking side by side, outside, a sleek black car waited. The driver, a young man named Tyler, opened the door. Mr. Reynolds, Commander Thorn, he said with a nod. Director Blackwood is waiting for you at the restaurant. The car was specially designed to accommodate Thorn's size. As they drove through the city, Mike looked out at the gleaming towers of New San Francisco. After 6 months in space, Earth seemed both familiar and strange. Are you going to accept her offer? Mike asked Thorn. The dragon was quiet for a moment. I have lived for centuries, Mike Reynolds. I thought my days of adventure were behind me, but a chance to see another galaxy? ... Isa. His amber eyes gleamed. How could I refuse? I'm just a mechanic, Mike said again. What could I possibly offer a mission like this? Thorn turned to him. Sometimes the greatest journeys begin with the smallest choices. You gave up your seat. That choice revealed your character. And character, young human, is what builds or breaks empires. The car stopped outside an elegant restaurant overlooking the bay. Through the windows, Mike could see Victoria waiting at a private table. Well, Mike said, taking a deep breath, I guess we're about to find out what happens next. Thorn rumbled with amusement. Indeed, and I suspect it will be, as you humans say, unbelievable. The restaurant was the fanciest place Mike had ever been. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling, and large windows showed the bay and the famous bridge lit up at night. Mike felt out of place in his dirty mechanic's jumpsuit. Should have changed, he whispered to Thorn as they followed the host to Victoria's table. You are fine as you are, the dragon rumbled. It is character that matters, not clothes. Victoria stood as they approached. She now wore a dark blue suit that looked even more expensive than the one from the plane. Gentlemen, thank you for coming, she said. Please, sit. The chair for Thorn was massive and reinforced, clearly brought in just for him. Mike wondered how Victoria had arranged that so quickly. I ordered some food already, Victoria said. I hope you don't mind. Servers brought plates of delicious-smelling food. Mike hadn't had a real Earth meal in 6 months, and his mouth watered at the sight of a thick steak. Now, Victoria said once they were alone, let's talk about Project Andromeda. She pressed a button on her watch, and a 3D image appeared above the table. It showed a massive ship unlike anything Mike had ever seen. It was sleek but powerful, with strange blue lights glowing along its hull. This is the Nexus, Victoria explained. The first true intergalactic vessel. Mike stared at the image. It's beautiful. And deadly, Thorn added. His eyes narrowed. Those are weapon ports along the sides, Victoria nodded. Yes. We don't know what we'll find in Andromeda. The ship needs to be able to defend itself. Why go at all? Mike asked. Why risk it? Victoria's face grew serious. Because we have to. The Harvesters weren't just random aliens attacking our galaxy. They were running from something. Mike put down his fork. Running from what? We don't know, Victoria admitted. But in the data from the Harvester ship, there were references to a threat in Andromeda. Something that drove them to flee their home galaxy and seek new worlds to harvest. Thorn's scales rippled with concern. You believe this threat might come here next? It's possible, Victoria said. The Alliance Council thinks we need to know what we're dealing with before it finds us. Mike looked at the ship image again. And you want me to help build this? Not just build it, Victoria said. We want you on it. As chief mechanical engineer. Mike nearly choked on his water. What? That's crazy? I'm not qualified for that. Actually, you are, Victoria said. She pulled out a tablet and slid it across the table. Your work record is impressive. You fixed problems that stumped senior engineers. You understand both human and alien technology. And most importantly, you can work with different species. Mike looked at the tablet. It showed his entire work history, including projects he thought no one had noticed. How did you get this? He asked. Interstellar Dynamics has access to Alliance records, Victoria said simply. We've been watching promising engineers for years, she turned to Thorn. And you, Commander, we want as our Draconis liaison officer. Your experience in the war and your understanding of both our species makes you ideal. Thorn studied Victoria with ancient eyes. This seems too convenient. You happen to be on our flight? Victoria smiled. Not exactly. When we decided to approach you both, I arranged to be on the same flight. But I didn't expect to witness such a perfect demonstration of why we need you. She leaned forward. The Nexus will have a crew of 50. 20 humans, 15 Draconis, and 15 from other Alliance species. They'll be living together in close quarters for 5 years. We need people who can build bridges. Mike thought about it. When would this mission leave? 6 months, Victoria said. The ship is nearly complete. We need you both to help with the final preparations and crew training. And my wing? Thorn asked, shifting his cybernetic limb. It would be a liability on such a mission. Victoria smiled. We have a team of the best cybernetic specialists ready to fit you with our newest model. Full sensation, perfect movement. Consider it part of your compensation package. Mike looked at Thorn, then back at Victoria. Can I have some time to think about it? Of course, Victoria said. She handed them each a small black card. These will get you into Interstellar Dynamics headquarters. Come tomorrow at 10 a.m. for a tour of our facilities. Then decide. After dinner, Victoria's driver took Mike to a hotel near the Interstellar Dynamics building. It was the nicest room he'd ever stayed in, with a view of the whole city. Mike couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the Nexus and the journey to another galaxy. It was exciting, but terrifying. What if he wasn't good enough? What if he failed? A soft knock on his door surprised him. When he opened it, he found Thorn in the hallway. The dragon had to duck to avoid hitting his head on the ceiling. "May I come in?" Thorn asked. "Sure," Mike said, stepping back. The room suddenly felt very small, with a 12-foot dragon in it. "I could not sleep," Thorn admitted. "I keep thinking about this mission." "Me too," Mike said. "It's a lot to take in." Thorn moved to the window, looking out at the city lights. "In my long life, I have learned to trust my instincts. And my instincts tell me this is important. Are you going to accept?" Mike asked. "I believe I will," Thorn said. "But I would feel better knowing you would be there as well." Mike was surprised. "Why me?" "Because you see people for who they are, not what they are," Thorn said. "On a mixed crew, that skill is as valuable as any technical knowledge." The dragon turned to face him. "And because I believe we were meant to meet, Mike Reynolds. Your grandfather saved my life at Proxima Centauri. Now, perhaps we can save others together." Mike thought about his life. 6 months ago, he had taken the job at the orbital station because he was bored. He wanted adventure, something meaningful. Now the biggest adventure possible was being offered to him. "I'm scared," Mike admitted. "What if I'm not good enough?" Thorn's rumbling laugh filled the room. "If you were not scared, I would worry. Fear is normal. Courage is feeling fear, but doing what must be done anyway." Mike looked at the image of the Nexus on his tablet. A ship to another galaxy. A chance to make history. A chance to make a difference. "Okay," he said finally. "I'm in." Thorn nodded, his amber eyes gleaming. "Then tomorrow we begin a new journey together." As the dragon left, Mike looked out at the stars visible above the city lights. Somewhere out there was Andromeda, waiting to be explored. And somehow, giving up his seat on a plane had put him on a path to the stars' life. Mike thought was truly unbelievable sometimes. 6 months passed quickly. Mike stood in the massive engine room of the Nexus, checking the final systems before launch. The ship was even more impressive from the inside than it had been in Victoria's hologram. Chief Reynolds called a voice. "The final checks are complete." Mike turned to see Lisa, his human assistant. She had joined the crew 3 months ago and quickly became his right hand. "Thanks, Lisa. How's the main drive looking?" "All green," she said with a smile. "The harvester tech is working perfectly with our systems." Mike nodded, feeling proud. He had spent months helping to integrate the alien technology with human and Draconis systems. It had been the hardest work of his life, but also the most rewarding. "The commander wants to see you on the bridge," Lisa added. Something about a surprise before launch. Mike made his way through the ship. Crew members from different species nodded to him as he passed. After 6 months of working together, they had become a team. Humans worked alongside Draconis and other aliens, all focused on the mission ahead. The bridge was the heart of the Nexus. Large. Windows showed the space dock where the ship was being prepared for launch. Earth was visible below, blue and beautiful. Commander Thorn stood near the captain's chair, talking with Victoria, and a man Mike didn't recognize. The dragon looked different now. His scales shone with health, and his new cybernetic wing moved as smoothly as his natural one. The advanced model that Interstellar Dynamics had provided allowed him to fly again for the first time in decades. "Ah," Mike Thorn rumbled when he saw him. "Come meet our guest." As Mike approached, he noticed something familiar about the older man standing with Victoria. He was in his 90s, with white hair and a straight back. He wore an old Alliance uniform with medals on the chest. Mike stopped, his heart skipping a beat. "Grandpa." Thomas Reynolds smiled. "Hello, Mike." Mike rushed forward and hugged his grandfather. "What are you doing here? How did you get clearance?" "I invited him," Victoria said. "I thought he should see what his grandson has accomplished." Thomas looked around the bridge with wonder. "When Ms. Blackwood told me you were the chief engineer on an intergalactic ship, I could hardly believe it. My grandson, going to Andromeda? It's all because of you, Grandpa," Mike said. "If you hadn't told me stories about the Draconas, I would never have given up my seat to Commander Thorn." Thomas looked at the massive dragon. Commander Thorne of the 7th Aerial Division? I can't believe it. Thorne lowered his head respectfully. Sergeant Thomas Reynolds of the USS Defiant. The honor is mine. You know each other? Mike asked, surprised. Not directly, Thomas said. But every human who fought at Proxima Centauri knew of Commander Thorne. His wings saved countless lives that day. As did your boarding party, Thorne replied. Without the technology you captured, this ship would not exist. Victoria checked her watch. Gentlemen, it's almost time. The launch ceremony begins in 30 minutes. Thomas hugged Mike again. I'm so proud of you, son. You're going to see things I never dreamed of. I wish you could come with us, Mike said. Thomas laughed. At my age? No, this is your adventure. But I'll be watching from Earth. They're going to broadcast your journey on all channels. A voice came over the ship's speakers. All non-crew personnel, please prepare to disembark. Launch preparations will begin in 20 minutes. Victoria led Thomas toward the exit. We'll watch from mission control, Mike. Good luck. After they left, Mike turned to Thorne. I can't believe she brought my grandfather here. Victoria Blackwood understands the importance of family, Thorne said. End of connections. That is why this mission will succeed. The next hour was a blur of activity. The crew took their positions, final checks were completed, and the dock prepared for departure. As chief engineer, Mike's station was in the engine room. Monitoring the Harvester Drive core, Captain Jennifer Davis, a veteran of the Alliance fleet, addressed the crew over the intercom. Men, women, and beings of the Nexus. Today we make history. We will be the first ship to leave our galaxy and journey to Andromeda. The trip will take 5 years. We face unknown dangers and challenges, but we go together as representatives of the Galactic Alliance. Mike watched the main screen as the dock arms released the ship. The Nexus moved slowly at first, then with increasing speed as it cleared Earth's orbit. Prepare for first jump, the captain ordered. Mike's hands moved over his console, activating the Harvester Drive. The strange blue energy that powered the alien technology began to glow brighter. You'll drive at full power, Mike reported. Ready for jump on your command. All crews secure for jump, Captain Davis said. Jumping in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The stars outside stretched into lines of light, then vanished as the Nexus entered jump space. The ship shuddered slightly, then steadied. On the main screen, a new view appeared, the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Jump successful, reported the navigation officer. We are on course for Andromeda. A cheer went up from the crew. Mike felt a hand on his shoulder and looked up to see Thorne standing beside him. We did it, Mike said, amazed. This is just the beginning, Thorne replied. The real journey lies ahead. Later, in the ship's observation lounge, Mike and Thorne stood looking at the stars. From this distance, they could see both the Milky Way behind them and, far ahead, the faint smudge of light that was Andromeda. Never imagined I'd be here, Mike said. 6 months ago, I was just a tired mechanic wanting to go home. And I was an old warrior with a broken wing, Thorne added. Now we are explorers, heading for a new galaxy. Mike thought about the chain of events that had brought him here. One small act of kindness on a routine flight had changed everything. Do you think we'll find whatever the harvesters were running from? Mike asked.
Us!
Thorne said. But whatever we find, we will face it together. Humans and Draconis, side by side, as it should be. Mike nodded, watching the stars. 5 years to Andromeda. 5 years of adventure, discovery, and challenges. It was terrifying and exciting all at once. You know what's funny? Mike said. If I hadn't given up my seat that day, none of this would have happened. Thorne's rumbling laugh filled the room. The universe works in strange ways, Mike Reynolds. Sometimes the smallest choices lead to the greatest adventures. As the Nexus continued its journey toward Andromeda, Mike couldn't help but agree. Life was truly unbelievable sometimes, and this was just the beginning.